flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle as to strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was alive. The president never gave me any deadline.
Good morning and welcome to another beautiful day. It's a very wonderful day from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Nigeria. This is Global Morning. As a matter of fact, I want to congratulate everyone that was able to see this beautiful day because looking at the happenings in Nigeria right now, getting to see the next day is a big testimony, and of course it's so beautiful that you are joining us this morning on Global Television. Well, today we'll be looking at so many things that are happening around the globe, especially from the national dailies. And we will also have a very topical issue to talk about today at the course of the Global Morning show. And as a matter of fact, I think things are gradually taking shape. One of the things that a lot of people actually applaud Nigerians for is the fact that we easily get used to situations. You know, I could remember when the hike in fuel started, a lot of people were actually saying so many things, a lot of complaints coming from different quarters. But as it is, I got to the road this morning and the usual panic was not there anymore. Everyone just got used to the situation. Someone said something, he said one good thing about Nigerians is the fact that they can adjust to almost, if not all situations, most situations, as the case may be. But then Nigerians are still optimistic because we are waiting for what will happen when Dangote starts rolling out his PMS, that's Premium Motor Spirits, petrol. That is supposed to bring some form of succor to Nigerians. But the way things are going, the promise came a very long time ago that Dangote was going to roll out fuel. But up till now, nothing has been done. And the issue of pricing is posing some form of confusion right now. Nigerians are thinking that the rollout of fuel from Dangote refinery is going to make the price of fuel come down. But then the determination of the price is what is posing some form of confusion right now. Nigerians are confused. But I think if you look at what is happening right now, you will know that everyone is getting used to the situation. But I'm very sure the government of the day will not just keep quiet and just watch Nigerians going through more pains additional to what the initial policy brought to Nigerians. And as it is in the papers this morning, we shall be looking at major headlines and major issues that will be in the paper. And don't forget that the review will also be coming with a guest, and when it's time for us to talk about the topical issue for the day, we will also have a guest in the studio who is going to be talking about that. I think the only good thing that you will have to do today is to stay tuned to Global Television, because we have a lot of beautiful programs lined up for you today, juicy programs, entertaining programs, educational and informative programs lined up for you today. So just don't go away, all right, from the channel. And as a matter of fact, right here in FCT today, I was so glad when I came out and discovered that it was not drizzling, because the way it gets started, it starts with drizzling, then before you know, it starts getting serious. bit by bit, then the rain will start falling. Those who don't go out with umbrella, at the end of the day, will have to be drenched. But today, it's a different case. When I saw the sun coming out very early this morning, you know, I was thinking, I said, hey, come on. This might be deceptive because some persons may feel, okay, it's going to be a sunny day. Then before you know what's happening, you will just discover that the cloud begins to form. And before you know it, it's a heavy downpour. So just get ready. What am I trying to say? In everything that you do, everything in life, there is need for you to make appropriate preparation for every step that you take. Let's go on a quick break. When we return, my colleague will be joining me, and of course, we will talk about so many things happening, the trending things from the national dailies. Coming up next will be the newspaper review. Welcome back. It is still Global Morning on Global Television, reaching you live and direct from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Nigeria. Well, this is one thing that a lot of people will always talk about, and it is the fact that so many newsy things coming out on a daily basis, then you'll want to acclimatize to the system, all right? And like what happened this morning, I was talking to Queen behind closed doors, and we're talking about the fact that sometimes when you don't have an option, you just think around the clock and put your emotions and your psychology together and just fit into every situation, the things happening around. Queen, the situation around right now, looking at everything happening, Nigerians are beginning to wear the belt of endurance. The middle name of a lot of Nigerians right now as we speak is endurance. I don't know. For how long would people be enduring situations in this country?
Ramsey, to answer that question, honestly, I don't know, but we keep hearing that policies are in place. The policies may not be favorable now, but in the long run, we would enjoy the benefits of these policies and, all what it is the president has going on or this administration has going on. But for me, to an extent, I feel that if things are going to be right or be better in the future, we should see the signs at least. We know that nothing good happens by chance. Nothing good happens just immediately, but we should see some level of progress somehow that things are going to be better, even though we're passing through difficult times. We have difficulties here and there, challenges here and there as a nation. But to an extent, I think people should be able to see some level of hope, a ray of hope that maybe from worse to bad, from good to better, from some level of elevation from what it used to be, not 2 times worse than what it used to be, and that is the reason we were also talking behind the cameras yesterday, where we talked about an elderly man who committed suicide. In Lagos State, people were begging him, and then he jumped into the lagoon. It was in the news as well. And then you see people doing this. The reason why people are killing themselves, people are committing suicide, is because they've lost hope. We know how integral hope is to nation building. We know how integral hope is even to an individual. And so when people don't see anything, what they see is what is. They can't fathom what tomorrow is going to look like. They can't fathom what after now is going to look like, particularly for men. A lot of men, you see a lot of men committing suicide. Most of the people committing suicide now are men, because of the responsibilities that they have to shoulder, and then they are not seeing, there's no ray of hope for them. And so you just hear that somebody slumped because they've been thinking. A lot of Nigerians are thinking, what is, at least let us see, let's have hope. Let's see what tomorrow is going to look like. Let's see that, okay, we know that it's difficult now, but tomorrow looks gleaming, But if people don't see that hope, that state of hopelessness is what makes people desperate, is what makes people commit suicide, it's what makes people do a lot of things. They've gotten to their point, their breaking point, where they don't see anything coming out of their present situation. But I understand that this administration is working. I understand that they're trying their best. But I think that these policies should Nigerians should be able to, effective communications, they should be better communicated to ensure that people are aware and they know that, okay, tomorrow is going to be better.
I think the saying that when there is life, there is hope, in Nigeria, it's becoming something different, because this is not the first time we're hearing about people trying to commit suicide. There was a time in same Lagos where someone wanted jumping into the lagoon and he was stopped. In FCT here, there was a man that climbed the mast and said he wasn't going to come down, until something is being done by this administration. These are just a few that we know about. What about the ones that we don't even know about? Some persons get tired. We were talking about men. Just yesterday, someone got a message from his wife also. And what was it? It was a list of items. Because sometimes the kids, the family, may not really know what's happening. All that you need to do as a man is provide for the home, which is the primary duty of every man. But looking at the situation, sometimes some persons will think, well, if I can't do this, what is the essence of living? But then committing suicide is not the last option. It's not the best. It's not good for anyone. No one should even think about that, because you need to be alive, all right? Your family needs you. Everyone needs you, no matter the situation. We know that someday we will get out of it. That's what it means. All right, let's go on a quick break. After this break, we'll return and we'll bring you to speed with the headlines for the day.
I've seen watch your network, Global Television, and I think it's a refreshing addition to some of the networks that we already have, to have competitive media and looking at news from different angles. The place to go is to watch Global Television, because it gives you a different perspective, whether it is local news or foreign news, and even you're connecting with local communities in villages that I have seen. So we urge Nigerians that, this is the time to
Well, it's now time for us to bring the papers for you on Global Morning. And we will be starting with the Daily News Hub, the front page of the Daily News Hub. Big story right there says, Borno devastating flood. Residents panic as wild animals convict escape from zoo and prison. So residents are panicking because of the flood and the release of these animals from the zoo. Not necessarily release, but the escape of these animals. So wild animals have escaped from the zoos, and is now found amongst residents, and people are panicking as well. Borno State, people are asking for prayers and intervention for Borno State with this devastating flood. We also have Ondo 2024, PDP thriving on lies. Blackmail, Ayedatiwa campaign body. According to Ayedatiwa's campaign body, says PDP is thriving on lies and blackmail for the Ondo 2024. We also have Ajaro, Tinubu's oppression surpasses military dictatorship, says Atiku. Buhari, ACF sympathize with Borno flood victims. I know for sure that we're going to see a lot of Borno is going to be in the news a lot of times for this flood, the devastating flood. Well, that's all we have on the front page of the Daily News Hub. Our next point of call will be the Daily Trust.
All right, thank you very much, Queen. Let's quickly look through the Daily Trust newspaper for this morning. On the Daily Trust newspaper, I have this headline, which is about Ajero. The UK TUC is saying Ajero's arrest is a violation of trade union freedom. That's coming from UK TUC. The arrest of Ajero, he was actually supposed to be in that Congress, but he couldn't make it. And some persons were saying they never wanted him to go. Maybe it's all a speculation, because till now, Ajero have not come out to say this is the reason I was arrested. Okay, though we know he had an issue with the police, but then the arrest by DSS at the airport is what we've not known the reason yet. But we know he was supposed to attend a meeting in the United Kingdom, and he couldn't make that. But this morning, UK TUC is saying the arrest of Ajero is a violation of trade union freedom. Then this one says Nigeria's crude oil production raised to 1.352 million in August. That's coming from OPEC. Nigeria's crude oil production rose to 1.352 million in August. It's rising, but the product is nowhere to be found. That's the problem. It's not how much is being produced, but then who is getting it? Where is it going to? Is it being exported, or it's for Nigerians to use? That's where the question will be coming from. And then this headline says Israel kills 248 Palestinians in safe zones as rights groups condemn siege. Then that takes us to the big story. The kicker for the big story says flooding. Then the big story itself says over 200,000 displaced, children missing in Maiduguri. Maiduguri has been in the news for flooding for a while, just like Queen was saying. Anytime you talk about flooding, you hardly not talk about Maiduguri. And yesterday we were talking about this on the desk, and we're talking about the fact that oftentimes the authorities wait for the damage to be done before they come up with damage control, which is not the best. Looking at what Nigerians are going right now, I think so many things need to be done so that more will not be added to the hardship, the hunger in the land. Flooding, this will result to people being displaced. And after being displaced, what's next? What's the hope of returning back to your house the way you actually want it to be? That's another big question. I actually have some riders to that story. The first rider say corpses float as cemetery wash away.
My goodness.
This is so unfortunate. I don't know how it's going to look like. Cemetery, oh my God, floats, corpses float. I wonder how, I don't know, this will constitute some form of environmental hazard, for corpses to be floating from cemetery.
And then we are going to have prevalence of diseases as well.
That's it. This is something that would have been prevented. Then another writer to that story say houses, Sheikh's palace, hospital submerged. Then this one says crocodiles, snakes escape into communities. That is disastrous. Shetima consoles victims of Zulum, reopens IDP camp. I take that again. Shetima consoles victims as Zulum reopens IDP camps. I know IDP camps will start opening, but then how would these people fare? The truth is this, nobody's life remains the same after leaving an IDP camp. You know what it means for you to be displaced, then you go to stay somewhere for a very long time, then you're returning back to your home. You know, you're going to be missing out of so many things. The trauma is not something to ever think about. Then finally from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, I have this one which says 125,517 terrorist family members surrendered. This is coming from Defense Headquarters. This is a good news, but the question we keep asking is, after surrendering, what next? Because so many needs to be done, right? These are people being conscientized into doing certain things. They need rehabilitation. They need to be tutored on how to get out of this situation, because just surrendering is not enough. And these people are coming to mix up with the society. You know what that means. If a terrorist said, I've repented, that terrorist needs to be looked at the second time, and the necessary things that is supposed to be done should be done before they get incorporated into the society. And that's going to be the size of the headlines from the Daily Trust newspaper.
Now let's look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper will be our next point of call. On the Guardian newspaper front page, big story says fears of fatalities as Borno Dam collapses, displaces half a million people have been displaced in Borno State. And one thing we love the Guardian for is you'd always get charts and indices of this displacement. Army denies fresh invasion of Ukwama, says it's routine military operation. They deny fresh invasion of Ukwama community. Petrol pump price hike, a failure of leadership. You find that story on page 8 of the Guardian newspaper. We also have Nigerians are disappointed. Are Onakakanfo tells Tinubu that Nigerians are disappointed. Are Nigerians truly disappointed?
You don't even need to ask that question, because the disappointment is written on the faces of Nigerians everywhere. Because looking at what's happening right now, you know what it means when the big handwriting on the wall before assumption of office is that hope is going to be restored. Then the little hope that the people have is being taken away by certain policies, and hardship becomes the order of the day. So what are we talking about? Where else is the hope?
Such questions with a big question mark.
I tell you.
Federal government rolls out free CNG kits, 230 naira per litre gas. OT writes INEC over Labour Party caretaker committee. We also have Abuja residents groan over restricted access to 40,000 naira rice. Also, these are the stories we have on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, but I want to draw our attention to the 40,000 naira bags of rice. This headline that says Abuja residents groan over restricted access to the 40,000 naira bags of rice. My problem has always been the implementation of some of these initiatives, policies or palliatives, you know, the follow through, how well it is followed through to ensure that those who are expected to get whatever it is that is being rolled out or given out gets it. The middlemen, in particular about that, because when we talk about palliatives like this, it is expected that people who Nigerians who are supposed to get it do not get it, like we see. And I expect that we take cue from incidences and past events that have occurred or happened. I expect that leadership should take cue. Take, for instance, the bags of rice that was given out the last time, the trailer trucks of rice that we saw.
20 trucks.
Yes, different states in the country. And we saw that these particular bags were being rebagged. It's to tell you that, there are loopholes in that distribution. And so it's expected that, having seen that video, because it was on the internet, and we expect that next time the follow-through should be different. The implementation should be different. The distribution should be different. We do not want a repeat of. But the thing that keeps happening is we continue to see mistakes happen over and over and over and over again. And what do they say? That when you continue to do certain things the same way and you're expecting the different results, it only means that you're foolish. It only signifies foolishness. And so this brings me to the issue of the flooding in Borno State and in other parts of the country where we have floods. This is not the first time we've been having issues of flooding having to affect lives, displace people. We've had issues of flooding over and over again. So we expect that people will go back to the drawing board. NIMET and relevant agencies will go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what happened the last time? Where were the loopholes? For example, we are seeing floods now. Before you know that, there will be uneven distribution of fuel. In some of these states, we would hear that there's no fuel in so and so place because the roads were flooded. But prior to this time, before the flood, we expect that, knowing that we're coming to that rainy season, there's going to be a point where places are going to be flooded. We expect that these trailers will have moved, distributed. Fuel should be stored in, different parts of the country ahead of this season. This is common sense we're talking about here. And then what is happening? Why were they flooded? Why were they flooding in the last, season? Why were these areas flooded? Why were these people displaced? So that we don't have a repeat again. But here we are.
That's it. When you were talking about the issue of erosion, the erosion washing away the Nigerian road and maybe hindering the even distribution of fuel, I was even thinking, do we even have good motorable roads in the first place before the flood? That's the question. Then, talking about the distribution of rice now, remember, this promise came the first time and Nigerians were told that the people who will be getting this rice are the vulnerable Nigerians. Then we begin to ask questions. What is the statistics put in place to know the people that are vulnerable? Who is going to get this rice? Now we heard that before you get this rice, you need to NIN and go through some other procedures, okay, before you can buy the bag of rice for 40,000 naira.
People can't even access it.
That's why Abuja residents are actually complaining about it. This is Abuja. This complaint is coming from Abuja.
They have the criteria. They have the requirements.
But you can't still get
requirements, and they can't get it.
Who is supervising this process? Who is going to be held accountable at the end of the day? Until these things are put in place, or else we'll still be having these shadows. Because you get to hear about all of this, then at the end of the day, you don't get to see the full implementation of these policies. Most of the situation will fall back to the average Nigerians because they are always at the receiving end of these policies. So I think the federal government, if they want to do something, what's worth doing is actually worth doing well. So the necessary apparatus should be put in place so that this thing is being done very well.
Yeah, our next point of call will be The Nation, which you bring to us.
All right, let's quickly look at The Nation's newspaper. Above the header, I have this headline which says, $3.5 billion NLG, that's the kicker. Shell accuses Venture Global of alleged wrongful earnings as NLNG faces same offense. That's the story above the header. Then below the header, we have this one which says the kicker is Abure Yesufu Igadolo. Okay, then this one say others ran Obi campaign funds. All right, let's move away from there. This one says Canada's student enrollment drops by 45%. All right, that's on the Nation's newspaper, and the details read on page 3. Just one rider to that story, and the rider says, new immigration policy unfavorable, and that's the reason why the enrollment has dropped by 45%. I think one country that Nigerians have flooded in recent times, especially students, is Canada. But then some immigration policies came on board, and the enrollment has drastically reduced to 45%. I think maybe some persons will say this is to the advantage of the Nigerian government, or maybe to some persons who don't really want people to leave Nigeria, because at the end of the day, these people leave the country and they don't get to return again. There was a time that the president was asking people, especially doctors, who left the country to return back. And up to now, we've not heard anything, whether or not they returned, or if they will return in the first place. Then that takes us to the big story of the Nation's newspaper. The big story says federal government's dollar bond attracts $900 million subscription. I take that again, the big story. A federal government dollar bond attracts $900 million subscription. That's the big story on the Nation's newspaper. And I have just one rider to that story. It says proceeds for critical economic project, says Edun. Proceeds for a critical economic project. This is coming from Edun. Then the next headline that I have here says, Ajero, no human rights is abused in Nigeria, says presidency. Ajero is the kicker. No human rights abuse in Nigeria, says presidency. You know, a lot of people were saying what actually happened. The arrest of Ajero is an infringement of his fundamental human right, because the arrest didn't come with any form of warrant. We were not told that the arrest came with any form of warrant, but we heard that he was arrested at the airport. But presidency is coming to respond to what Nigerians are saying on social media and everywhere, that as a matter of fact, no human rights abuse in Nigeria. That's coming from the presidency. This one says that we are winning battle against bandits, oil thieves, says service chief. The service chiefs are saying this, that they are winning battles against bandits, oil thieves. Then just one rider to that story. Terrorist Torges capture imminent. That's coming from the service chiefs. All right, the last headlines from the Nation's newspaper this morning is this. The kicker says Edo 2024. Then the story itself says PDP APC clash over purported plan to make a state ungovernable. Details read on page 5. I was telling someone, and I said it's like the Edo gubernatorial election is looking like a presidential election. You know, because so many things coming out from Edo State, you know, the fight between the big guns, you know, the godfathers and the subordinates, everything, the way the whole thing is playing out. The talks from wives,
the
violence, everything. These are not things that is common with gubernatorial elections in most states. But someone told me, the person said election in Edo State is like, governorship election is like a presidential election. And that's exactly what is playing out. But then this morning, PDP and APC clash over purported plan to make state ungovernable. Who is making the state ungovernable? You can pick a copy of the Nation's newspaper and go through the story on page 5 to get more details about the story. Our next point of call will come from Peace this time.
Yeah, our next point of call will be the New Telegraph for you. So we're bringing the front page of the New Telegraph for you. Not too many stories, but big story here says, Borno flood. Inmates flee as Maiduguri prison wall collapses. We also have the rider there says, Governor closes schools. Flood takes over Shehu's palace and sacks residents. Above the nameplate of the New Telegraph, we have OPEC, Nigeria records highest boost in crude supply output. We also have Labour leader not above the law, says presidency. And we have vanishing Naira, how inflation's making lower denominations disappear. This is true. This is true. So yesterday I was going somewhere and I stopped by and somebody was giving out. I stopped by to get something and somebody was giving money to the vendor. And the money was in new 10 Naira notes, mint 10 Naira notes, about 500 or 200, I can't remember, but it was in a bundle and was given to the vendor. The vendor was like, do we still have 10 Naira notes in the country? Literally, what can 10 Naira do for you? But even in bulk, to the vendor was a bit disappointed because why do I have to have this much amount of money when I can just get a note or something? And so, because of the inflation, there's virtually no value for our 15 Naira now, no value for our 10 Naira now, no value for, do we even have 5 Naira? I don't know if we still do, if there's anything that...
I don't think we have 5 Naira
anymore. It's not in circulation anymore.
It cannot buy anything.
You can imagine the surprise in the vendor's face yesterday when 10 Naira notes were handed over to.
But where did the person get the 10
Naira
notes?
It was from the bank.
From
yes,
the bank.
The other buyer says it was from the bank. No, this is what the bank gave me. Mint 10 Naira notes. I think about 200 or 500 or thereabouts in bundle and was given to the vendor. And so it was surprising to know that that money was still in circulation. Our last story here on the New Telegraph. Labour leaders not above the law, says presidency. This has to do with the back and forth with the NLC and the presidency. That's all we have on the front page of the New Telegraph. Our next point of call will be the Nigerian News Direct.
Oh, all right, thank you, Queen. Before I get to the Nigerian News Direct,
when we were talking
about Labour is not above the law, that's the reason Nigerians are asking. Nigerians want to know the reason why Ajero was actually arrested, because nobody will just wake up overnight and want to arrest the Labour president. Okay, so something must have gone under the bridge. Something may have happened. But Nigerians, you know how it happens. Labour were already mobilizing, their other branches to go on a strike because of this incident. Probably because they don't know why the NLC president was actually arrested. But now, saying Labour is not above the law, I think that is the same. But then, some persons will say, gone are the days where people will say the judiciary is the last hope of the common man because of the happenings around. But the truth is that nobody, not just Labour, no politician, no one in governance, no citizen of Nigeria is greater than the law of Nigeria, and no single Nigerian is greater than Nigeria itself, because Nigeria is a country. We are Nigerians. All right, let me get to our next point of call, which is the Nigerian News Direct. This story actually is of interest to me. It's on page 9 of the Nigerian News Direct. It says the federal government partners Google to launch 100 million naira fund to bolster innovation in AI, that is artificial intelligence. One good thing that is happening to the digital world right now is the emergence of artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, the rest of them. You don't get to. I think these are some of the things that have been used in advanced countries before now, that made almost everything very easy for them. But then, coming to Nigeria now, if you look at it from the other part of it, some persons were actually saying the introduction of AI has made a lot of Nigerian youths, not to do so much research anymore, because the AI does almost everything. It will do almost everything for you. Is it a letter you want to write to someone, how to go about it? Is it a particular research? Is it about economy? Is it about ICT? Anything, whatever you want to do. So the federal government partnering with Google, okay, to launch 100 million naira fund to bolster innovation in AI is a welcome development. Then I will have to say this: it is not just the funding that matters, but how far is it going to go? Google, I think the Google office in Lagos, we should be asking questions. Are they still operational? Because Google itself had to leave because of certain things that was not going down well with them. And this is the same Google. If you know that Google House in Lagos, you know what I'm talking about. You know how many people lost their job as a result of that. Not just Google, a lot of companies left Nigeria because of the economic downturn and because of the situation in the country, because of the effect of some policies that were not favorable to these foreign companies. We are calling in investors. We are trying to woo investors. Then those investing in the country already, I think it will be good if certain things are being done to make the environment conducive and favorable for them to actually carry out their assignments here. So it's a good one for the federal government to partner with Google to launch 100 million naira fund to bolster innovation in artificial intelligence. The details is on page 9 of the Nigerian News Direct. Then this one says that top bank executives, officials to face EFCC prosecution soon. This one is coming from Olukoyede. Details read on page 2. Then the big story on the Nigerian News Direct says Borno faces most devastating flood in 30 years. Thousands displaced. I take that again. Borno faces most devastating flood in 30 years. We're talking about the fact that this is not the first time this flood is happening. 30 years, thousands displaced. And I have some riders to that story. The first rider says over 200 inmates escape prison. And you know what that means? People incorporating into the society illegally because these are escapees. And the way they escape, who know if they have gotten the orientation not to do what took them to the prison again. These people will still constitute nuisance to the society, looking at the way they were even released. These are escapees. So this tells a lot about the Nigerian people and the citizens, the safety and the security of the nation. Then the second rider says Tinubu Shetima, a pledge to fix ailing infrastructure, condole with affected communities. The last rider to that story says NEDC, other emergency agencies vow to assuage hardship. And the next story on the Nigerian News Direct says DSS bows to oppression, releases Ajero's seized passport phones as federal government faults UK TUC claims. I know the federal government was going to react to that because UK TUC, like we heard from the first paper, said, well, that's a violation, okay, of the rights of Ajero and the labor itself. But the presidency is saying federal government fault that claim. This read on page 22 of the Nigerian News Direct. This one says Ondo leads in operationalizing power sector law, rolls out mass metering initiative. Details read on page 4. And finally, from the Nigerian News Direct on page 2, the kicker says viral Libya video. Then the story itself says shown deadly pathways to migration. This one is coming from NITCOM as they warn Nigerians, and that's going to be the size of the headlines from the Nigerian News Direct. And our next point of call will be from the First News.
Yes, the First News is our next point of call. On the front page of the First newspaper, big story says, Floods ravage Nigeria. Maiduguri faces snake and crocodile invasions. Rider says Bauchi reports 24 dead and 22 billion naira in flood damage. The sad thing about this flood is that it not only affects properties, it affects lives, affects properties, damages infrastructure. Bauchi is recording a loss of 22 billion naira now, currently. And so if we don't take, I would continue to emphasize and re-emphasize that if we don't take decisive measures to help us in the next year, we would have this same issue of flooding again. Because 30 years ago, 1994, we had this same flood in Borno State. And yesterday, September 10th, yesterday, there was a reoccurrence, even worse than what happened 30 years ago. So what does that tell us? Are we progressing? Are we making cognitive decisions? Are we putting into place, are relevant agencies putting in the work? How can we have an incident that occurred 30 years ago occur now and even worse? And so this is something that has been happening in subsequent times. It has happened last year. We saw it happen last year. We saw it happen a few months ago in other states, particularly in Lagos and the Lekki axis, where we had issues and cases of flooding. And now there's a reoccurrence. What do we need to do better? I wouldn't be surprised if we hear that fuel cannot get to certain regions in the country because of flooding, where we should have had this fuel distributed in various parts, stored in various stations ahead, so that people can commute. Anyways, why am I talking about commuting? Anyway, there are other places that are not flooded, but because we know how these tankers pass interstates, they pass various states to be able to get to other states. And we can hear now that some states in the country cannot get fuel because some parts of the country is flooded. And so we expect that before now, there should be even distribution of this fuel.
That's it. That's it. Because if there's anything biting Nigerians seriously now, it's the issue of fuel. All right, let's go on a quick break. When we return, we'll bring you more headlines from the Nigerian national dailies.
And that's going to be after the news.
That's going to be after the AM.
After the global AM
news.
Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to the AM News on Global Television. We're coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I'm Queen Agaba. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and free to air on Nightcomsat. President Bola Tinubu has sent his condolences to the government and people of Niger State over the petrol tanker explosion on the Bida-Age-Lakpai Road that claimed the lives of 48 people and livestock. The president, in a statement by Bayo Ononuga, his special advisor on information and strategy, directed relevant federal agencies in transportation and road infrastructure to redouble their efforts and work with state government to enhance the safety and security of travelers and residents. The All Progressives Congress APC in Kano State has rebuked the embattled chieftain of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, Senator Rabiu Kwakwanso, for criticizing the method adopted by the federal government in the distribution of palliatives in order to get to the needy. In a statement released against the remark by Kwakwanso on his X handle, chairman of the APC in Kano State, Alhaji Abdullahi Abbas, says the federal government is committed to reducing hunger in the country, but the NNPP government is frustrating the efforts. He noted that President Tinubu has approved several palliative measures for poor households and vulnerable, but the people assigned for the distribution are diverting them. The Labour Party says there will be no automatic ticket for Peter Obi and Governor Alex Otti of Abia State in the 2027 presidential and governorship elections. The National Executive Council of the party said this in Abuja while addressing journalists. Obi was the party's presidential candidate in the 2023 presidential election after defecting from the People's Democratic Party. The People's Democratic Party says the All Progressives Congress should be ready to face the wrath of the Edo State people if it continues in its violent attacks and harassment of innocent citizens of the state. The major opposition party, however, reiterated its calls on the Inspector General of Police to wade in and halt APC's activities, warning that it is pitching the people of the Edo State against the police. PDP further urged the IGP to ensure the immediate and unconditional release of every Edo citizen being detained by the APC. Presidential candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party in 2023, Rabiu Musa Kwakwanso, has expressed concern over the security situation in Kano State following of postings of directors of Department of State Services to the state. He said within a span of 2 weeks, 3 different state directors of the DSS were posted and reposted out of the state, noting that it is negatively affecting the security of the state. The National Orientation Agency, in collaboration with the National Population Commission and UNICEF, have launched a birth registration awareness campaign in Gombe State. The campaign, running from August to November 2024, aims to register all children aged 0 to 5 years, ensuring they receive a national identification number at no cost. The initiative seeks to guarantee that every child is officially recognized by the state, providing access to essential services like education and healthcare. The National Industrial Court has ordered the payment of 629 million naira to an employee of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation over unjust termination of appointment by the management in 2018. The presiding judge of the Port Harcourt Judicial Division, Justice Faustina Kola Olalere, ruled that the dismissal of the complaint, Dr. Williams from NNPC, was wrong as it did not follow relevant labor laws. This was disclosed on the official website of the National Industrial Court. The House of Representatives has directed the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board to transfer 3.602 billion naira to the federal government's Consolidated Revenue Fund within 30 days. The directive was issued by the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, Bamidele Salam, during an investigative hearing in Abuja. The order followed a demand from the Fiscal Responsibility Commission, which accused JAMB of failing to remit its full operating surplus to the federal government. The Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has launched an online portal for the public to procure affidavits from the courts. Report says that the innovation introduced by the court's Chief Judge, Justice John Tosho, brings the court in tune with digital global best practices. Thousands of residents have fled their homes following a devastating flood in parts of Maiduguri, Borno State capital. Reports say most of the affected places are in Jera local government area. Borno State government had earlier ordered closures of schools over reports that the flood in the state could worsen within 48 hours. Many residents of Fori, Galtimari, Gwange, and Bulabulin were displaced by the flood. Meanwhile, a larger part of Maiduguri metropolis, including the Shehu of Borno's Palace, the State Secretariat, Nigeria Customs Service Office, State Specialist Hospital, among others, have been submerged by water. Following the collapse of the Alao Dam in Konduga local government area of Borno State, the millionaires' quarters around Gamboru Ward and its environment were also flooded, as the popular Lagos Bridge and the Modunganari Bypass Bridge have also been submerged and inaccessible. In another development, the recent flood that ravaged some communities in Kafanchan and some other villages in Jammer's local government area of Kaduna State has been reported to have swept away 2 children and displaced over 1,000 citizens. Vice Chairman of Jammer's local government, Christy Usman, disclosed this when she reviewed the Kaduna State Impact Assessment Committee on flood on a tour of affected communities in southern Kaduna. She says the floods in parts of Kafanchan Municipal City, Jagindi, Atuku, Aso, and Bade wards also washed away farmlands, destroying crops worth millions of naira. You're watching the Global AM News, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. When AM News returned, Nigeria partners China on $3.3 billion brass methanol project. Details of this and more after this break. Please stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. If you've just joined us, this is Global Television bringing you live broadcast of the AM News. In business, oil marketers say they are concerned about the delay in announcing the price of premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, being produced by the Dangote Petroleum Refinery, as they noted that the landing cost of imported PMS is now about 1,120 naira to a litre. Dealers stated that a high PMS price from the Dangote Refinery will lead to the importation of the commodity by marketers, since the government has opened up the market for competition. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, and its joint venture partnered Chevron Nigeria Limited, are targeting an oil production rate of 165,000 barrels per day by December 2024. Both companies concluded the conversion of 5 of its joint venture assets into the Petroleum Industry Act (PIA) terms, in line with the Petroleum Industry Act 2021 provisions of training assets from the Petroleum Profit Tax into PIA terms. NNPCL, which made this known, also stated that under the new PIA regime, all existing oil prospecting licenses and oil mining leases will be automatically converted to petroleum prospecting licenses and petroleum mining leases upon their expiration. Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule says the state government is committed to encouraging the use of liquefied natural gas and compressed natural gas biofuel by motorists and motorcyclists across the state. He also stated that the state government has concluded plans to establish liquefied natural gas and compressed natural gas system conversion centers in the 3 senatorial zones of the state. The governor explained that the move was aimed at providing alternative to premium motor spirit following the incessant price hikes that trailed the removal of subsidy by the federal government. Nigeria's telecom sector risks shutdown as about 800 workers from the Private Telecommunications and Communications Senior Staff Association have embarked on strike, threatening to cripple services nationwide. The union, largely contract staff, warned of massive disruptions to telecom operations if its demands were not met, as this would leave millions of subscribers to face a potential communication blackout. The strike began on Monday, and the union's demands include, among other things, reinstatement of some of its sacked workers, recognition of the union, improved working conditions, and remittance of membership dues. The Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Bank of Industry, and some financial institutions will be discussing the impact of the current recapitalization on the real sector as the 2024 Finance Correspondents Association of Nigeria Conference. A statement by the organization noted that the event would address Nigeria's ambitious goal of achieving a $1 trillion economy. In entertainment, popular American actor James Earl Jones, who is renowned for giving the Star Wars supervillain Darth Vader his distinctive, gravelly voice, is dead. Jones died early Monday morning, surrounded by his family. Aged 93, Jones starred in dozens of films, including Field of Dreams, Coming to America, Conan the Barbarian, and The Lion King. On the foreign scene, the former boyfriend of Ugandan athlete Rebecca Cheptegei, who died after he set her on fire, has himself died after succumbing to burns. This is according to an official at the Kenyan hospital where he was being treated. Dixon Ndema had ambushed the marathon runner as she returned home from church more than a week ago before dousing her with petrol and setting her ablaze. Local administrators say the two had been in conflict over a small piece of land in northwest Kenya where Cheptegei lived and trained. Ndema died on Monday night at the intensive care unit where he had been admitted with more than 30 degrees burns. Russian officials say they have shut down 144 Ukrainian drones around the country overnight in a wave of attacks that have killed one woman, set residential buildings on fire, and grounded flights in Moscow. The governor of Moscow, Andrei Vorobyov, says several flights in two high-rise apartment buildings in Ramenskoye in Moscow region were set on fire. Vorobyov says a 46-year-old woman died and 3 people were injured in Ramenskoye, while 43 people were evacuated to temporary accommodation centers. At least 40 people have been killed in southern Gaza and dozens more injured in Israeli strikes on a designated humanitarian zone. The Israeli military says its aircraft attacked an operations center in Khan Yunis belonging to Hamas fighters, and it had taken steps to mitigate risk of having civilians. Local residents say 3 strikes targeted tents housing displaced people in the humanitarian zone of Al-Mawasi, west of the city of Khan Yunis, causing 7-meter deep craters. In sports, the funeral for Ugandan Olympic runner Rebecca Cheptegei, who died in Kenya after being set on fire by her boyfriend, will be held on September 14th in her home country. The 33-year-old, who completed the women's marathon at the Paris Olympic last month, succumbed to severe burns on Thursday, 4 days after being doused with petrol and set alight at her home in western Kenya. Oyo State Commissioner for Youth and Sports, Wasilat Adegoke, says over 250 athletes and 58 officials from the state will participate in the 2024 National Youth Games organized by the Federal Ministry of Sports for the under-15 athletes. The under-15 athletes were drawn from the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The commissioner made this announcement while addressing them before their departure at the Lekon Salami Stadium, Adamasingba in Ibadan, the state capital. Godfrey Omoniho has emerged champion of the 2024 Lady Captains Inaugural Tournament at the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan Golf Club, Abuja. The 2-day tournament in honor of Isabella Ajuzie, the newly inaugurated lady captain of the club, ended on Sunday with no fewer than 200 golfers competing for honors in the various categories. Omoniho, playing off handicap 9 and returning a gross score of 73 and 64 net over 18 holes, notched the event's highest prize. Real Madrid star Rodrigo says Brazil needs Neymar if they are to chase a record 6th World Cup in 2026. The 23-year-old, who scored a first-half goal to help Brazil beat Ecuador 1-0 on Friday and stop the 3-match losing streak in CONMEBOL, qualifying for the 2026 World Cup, says Neymar is key to Brazil's success. That's it on the Global AM News, and it came to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on DSTV, channel 365, Star Times, channel 276, and free-to-air on Nigecomsat. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using @GlobalTVNG and other handles now showing on your screen. I'm Queen Agaba. Thank you for watching, and see you again. Well, welcome back. Many thanks for staying with us, and we will be continuing with the front page of the papers for you. And we have our guest, who is an analyst, a public affairs analyst, who would put us through and help us better make sense of the big story. Our guest, AJ Monday, AJ, who is a legal practitioner and a public affairs analyst, is now here with us. Good morning, sir. Welcome. It's a pleasure having you on the program.
Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. And now we will be looking at the first newspaper for you. I think we had a big story there on the Borno flooding in Borno State. Big story says floods ravage Nigeria. Maiduguri faces snake and crocodile invasion. We also have the rider there says that Bauchi, I beg your pardon, Bauchi reports 24 dead, 22 billion naira in flood damage. Above, just beside the nameplate, we have Ajaro Serap, Tinubu's oppressive control worse than days of military dictatorship, according to Atiku. And also, we have NCDC confirms 55 cases of monkeypox across 21 states and the FCT. Also, we have oil price falls below $70, first time since 2021 amid global demand concerns. Buhari declares floods in Borno, other states, national calamity. And Shetima visits Maiduguri, pledges government action to combat persistent flooding. And these are the stories we have on the front page of the first news paper for you. Mr. AJ, please, what do you make of the floods, particularly in Maiduguri, as we hear now that snakes and reptiles and wild animals have managed to escape following the flood? Flood has swept them to residential areas, and the consistent, cases and issues of flooding that we have on a repeat. It's more like a year-on-year basis.
Well, in fact, before it hit the headlines, I was talking to some friends who are of that region, or from that region of the country, and many of them had their houses even destroyed, damaged, and taken over by floods long before these headlines started hitting the media space. I'm also aware of the fact that even some major highways that were constructed recently got shredded and torn off. But I think from again, allow them to be specific.
Broken.
And from there, we had this issue. See, there's a premise from which I usually analyze our situations in this country. And that premise is from the fact that we have civil servants, we have public servants, we have ministries, we have departments, we have government agencies that are being manned basically by people that are about 70, 90, even 95% liabilities. Now, for as far as I can remember, even when we had issues with flooding in Lokoja and in some other places, dams and dams and dams and dams. If it is not dam let loose by government of Niger Republic, now it is dams being broken and overflooded or overflowing from within the confines of the country. So the question is, what do our civil servants really do? I don't think those who are in offices should handle that. NEMA is involved, of course, but there should also be some state agencies that should be handling issues bordering on that. Because I'm aware that weather reports were out long ago that mentioned flashpoints where we should expect flood from. What have we been doing between that time and now? It's easy for us to pick on somebody and say, government is not doing this, the government is not doing that. But who is the government? Apparently, eventually it boils down to the ordinary citizen who has been appointed or employed, put in a public office to make things work. And they are not making it work. So that issue of flooding is just one of the calamities or natural. It's not even. It's an avoidable disaster if the civil servants and the public servants will do what they are supposed to do.
I think you have a point there, because while you were talking about the civil service, there was a time that someone said majority of the problems that we have in this nation, most of the problems come from the civil servants themselves, but most times people blame the government for certain things, even though the government have a bulk of the role to play. But as it is, like when we were talking, something came to my mind, because one palm sec is going, another one is coming in. Then most times you see these people coming to repeat the same thing over and over again, following the same status quo. You know, what was on ground, this one comes and continue. And there is this school of thought that if you come, there are these people, there is also a cabal, okay, in the civil service, who will tell you this is the way it's been done. And if you don't dance to the tune of the music, it will go the other way. So as it is, I think this flooding issue, the GIS experts, the Geographical Information System experts, may have given out some reports. But now, why is it that most times people wait for these things to happen before they come up with control measures, like you were just talking about it right now? But is it just the civil service that the problem lies with?
Mr. Ramsey, you see...
You just summarize the problem we have. All the challenges are basically people-generated problems.
Now, the question you asked at the end of your summation, to the effect that why do we like to wait for things to get to this stage
before we take
steps? The answer is simple. I will tell you what they will do. Now they will tell you they are sending
relief materials, they are sending bags of rice, they are doing this, they need to evacuate them and take them
to refugee camps, blah, 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 blah. And they vote monies for these issues.
I like that word. Just one minute. I like that word. You start from there. They vote money for these things. But then, what about the supervision and the accountability? Let's go on a quick break. We'll return to continue with the story and the analysis from the dailies. It is still Global Morning on Global Television, where we bring you to speed with the headlines for the day. And of course, we brought to you so far some major headlines. And our guest is right in the studio here making justice to some of the headlines. And we're talking about the flooding situation in the country and how it's been ignored by people who are supposed to put up measures to curtail these incidences, which has resulted to disaster in some parts of the country. We have with us a legal practitioner and, of course, a public affairs analyst in the person of Eje, Monday Eje. Like we're talking, you were talking about the fact that some persons that are supposed to put up measures to make sure these things don't happen again are just sitting and waiting until the situation gets deteriorated before they come up with measures. So you can continue with that explanation, that analysis.
You see, matter of factly, the typical Nigerian civil servant does not feel is going to do that job because it needs to impact the society. It's all about what you can get or what they can get from the system. So once they are going in, you have a new PAMSEC, you have the DFAs, you have the deputy directors. These men are there. They want to make as much money as possible, own houses everywhere. I can categorically tell you, most of the estates you have in this country, even in the FCT, the properties thereon are basically owned by civil servants and public servants. I can tell you that for free. Now, when these disasters don't happen, monies don't come out.
So they deliberately
yes, they deliberately wait for it to happen.
To the detriment of Nigerians.
Yes. For example, you have this program this morning, you did not just come up on this program. You made preparations.
Sure.
You called me. You said, okay, let's do this today. These are proactive steps. You've done some work even on your system to ensure that this program is a success. So are the ICT and audio guys and the cameramen. Now, put this picture in Nigeria. Once the meteorological people, the weather people come out and say, oh, these are flashpoints for flood this year. What do you expect a normal human being to do who wants to ensure that things don't go haywire? Get to the drawing board. What do we do to ensure that, this flood does not happen? Nobody has uttered a word. Nobody has said we carried out some preventive measures to ensure this did not happen. But we got it wrong here, we got it wrong there. Have you heard that? No, because there was basically no plan for it, even after being warned. So what needs to happen is for there to be a disaster, for there to be some things that monies need to be expended on, and that's why there are hypotheses in town to the effect that the security challenges we have are not coming to an end because there are persons who also benefit from that scenario. So you can apply this hypothetical situation day in, day out, and of course, even the palliatives we keep hearing that government release every day. Where have you seen them? They vote monies. Yes, monies will be approved, sometimes even released, but you won't get anything. And then I recall that you asked another question, that what about supervision? What about control? Who asks the question that we've released XYZ sum of money to you and we've not seen anything? Somebody should be held responsible. I think that is the basis of your question. If you want to hold anybody accountable, you go by the books. Once they vote out 10 naira and you're able to retire it on the books, nobody does any other thing. It is the report. For example, the president, if at all he wants to begin to vet and look into everything that is happening in the country with respect to finances, is going to work with the report of the Auditor General. And if the Auditor General has not raised issues or questions with respect to monies that have been released, what do you want him to do? The books are saying everything is okay.
Let me get your reaction to this headline, still on First Newspaper. It says, time is running out. Gani Adams critiques Tinubu for indifference in Nigerians' plight, in the plight of Nigerians. This administration, people have come out, we've had analysts come out to say, you know what, getting to where we want to get to is never going to be easy. The journey is never going to be easy. It's not going to be, we shouldn't expect a smooth transition, I beg your pardon, a smooth transition. And so we must take those difficult steps. But how difficult, should it be? How much time is time enough? Judging from Gani's statements now, that time is running out. Does it have to be this difficult before we get to how much time is time enough for us to begin to see that we're getting to where we want to be?
Well, apologies to those who might not be comfortable with some things we are going to say. We don't have the full facts of the goings on in government quarters. The people that are currently there have said a whole lot of things in the past with respect to Nigeria and how they are going to fix Nigeria, blah, 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 blah. But they are in it right now as we speak. And I think they can tell you for free that it's not easy. I've sat down and thought about the problems of this country back and forth here and there. And my hypothesis has not changed, even with respect to what we call our plights. For example, on my way to this place this morning, I visited one of the filling stations and just to get fuel. That filling station has a double wing. Each of the wings should have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 pumps. But as we speak, it's about 10 pumps that are selling.
Out of 40?
Out of the 40. And the issue is there no fuel? There is fuel. Why are they not selling? The answer is simple. Information in public domain says the landing cost of fuel is above 1,000 naira. So it's possible that what they are waiting for is either another price hike or maybe arrangements as to subsidies, even though they've been telling us that there are no subsidies. Now, so the plight I faced this morning with respect to getting fuel in my car was caused by a fellow Nigerian.
That's not the federal government now.
That is not the federal government now. It was caused by the manager of that filling station, probably acting on instructions of the CEO of that filling station. If I had just, if the 40 pumps were selling and I drive into one pump, and I would have been here earlier, much earlier. It was the fuel situation I considered when I agreed to the time that I agreed to this morning. Now, the same scenario plays out in all filling stations. There's a particular one I even know that sells fuels only occasionally. They just shut down. So I was discussing with somebody said that is a black market filling station. Now, people will tell you that the foreign exchange issues, and then what again? Removal of subsidy from fuel. And let me add another one, electricity is the reason why we're facing a lot of things that we're facing. But my brother, somebody built a house when dollar was probably 17 naira. Today, is renting that house for, I know somebody who was paying 650, and the landlady told him, please leave my house, I want to use it. Eventually, the landlady wasn't going to use it. Now, in that area, they are already renting apartments for 1.5 and close to 2 million. So the landlady has that information from the agent and now wants to increase to 2 million. It's not the federal government that has done that to that person.
You see, let us just face the facts of the situation that we find ourselves.
So,
now, the farmer who is supposed to get us food, many of these areas, I think Benue, has been tagged food basket and some other areas. Some of them have security challenges. They can't go to farm the way they should. But even those that are going as we speak, the fertilizers that should go to them, the question is, are those fertilizers getting to them? If the farmer now picks the food, somebody was saying, the farmer too goes to the market and say, okay, I'm from a community. In my village, the farmers don't pay transport to go to farm. The school their children attend is in that community, basically. Those who do the farming. And I can tell you their school fees is not high. In fact, we contribute money as a community to put some things in place, which shouldn't be, though. We pay some teacher's salary to keep this, which shouldn't be. So, I don't know why the ordinary farmer will increase the price. But it's not the ordinary farmer that is doing it. There are maybe men who go to pick these items from these communities and they hoard them and sell them at outrageous rates. What do you want the government to do? And we are practicing a mixed economy. But the mixed economy has granted you some privileges and rights to do your business in the manner in which you want to do that business.
I think one of the things that may have contributed to the hike in foodstuff in the market, apart from the fact that there is this unnecessary hike coming from people who want to make excess profit, the cost of transporting this product from one location to the other by the middlemen also contribute, and that boils down to the fuel. You talked about the filling stations, the manager getting instruction, maybe from the top, to do some form of gymnastic to make more profit. Don't we have regulatory bodies by the government who should look out for people like that?
I agree with you. And that's why part of the blame should go to the Federal Competition and Consumers and Competition Protection Council. It used to be Consumer Protection Council before the name was changed. They are the ones, that's the agency that shut down a particular supermarket in the Area 11 axis that they said our number 2 person instructed them to open up pending investigations. So this particular agency is supposed to go around to regulate prices. Yet again, they are manned by Nigerian citizens. And yet again, they are not doing what they should do. And yet again, that is a government agency. Which takes us back to the hypothesis with which we started this conversation. You see, we cannot continue to hurt and harm ourselves. We know those who are causing problems for us. But we choose to take to the narratives of the politicians and political elites who are basically running their criticisms with a view to gaining power. So those ones are in their own territory. They are playing their own game. And I shouldn't necessarily buy into it. So that was why I sat down and thoughtfully reached a decision as to why I've told people before. I know I've even told you, Ramsey, before, that we were blaming Buhari at that time. And I said, when he leaves, if we continue to behave the way we are behaving as Nigerians, the next government that is coming, it will be worse, regardless of who the person is. And I'm repeating it today on this platform. If as Nigerians, we keep behaving the way we are behaving, after Tinubu, it will be worse.
Wow.
There is nothing, there is no magic that, no individual, and I've even stretched that, but I'm so sure of it. Very, very sure of it.
Okay, you're talking about the behavior you're referring to is the analysis you gave in the first instance, where Nigerians who are even supposed to behave like Nigerians are doing the otherwise. Is that the...
That is what I'm saying. In fact, let's stretch the issue a little bit further. With respect to this fuel hike, people have been clamoring for Dangote refinery, that things will be okay, fuel will be available. The issue is not availability. We've never had problems of availability of fuel. Let me just tell you the truth. The situation is when they want to increase this price, they will create an artificial scarcity situation that gets us desperate enough to want to buy, even if the price is at a particular thing. And that was why when they secretly switched fuel pump price midday without any announcement, this last increment, people just switched queues. You know, they started looking for the one that is selling cheapest and went to buy. Nothing happened. Things just went on. Dangote's refinery is sitting on a land, on a property that has been tagged free trade zone. Now, a free trade zone area, FZE, is an international ground. It's as if you are on a diplomatic ground. You are not in Nigeria. It's Nigeria in Nigeria. There's a reason why the investors in that refinery chose to put it in an FZE. So they are and that was why NNPC, because people don't know how these things work. So they say a lot of things. That was why NNPC took the initial decision to give them fuel in foreign currency. Because anything they are going to do from there to will likely be, in fact, not likely, foreign currencies. You know, they have their own, they have the place they pay their taxes to. It's called Nigerian Export Processing, NEMSA. I can't get it this thing now, but they are the ones in charge of I think Nigerian Export Processing Zones. They have their own acts. Your driver's license, passport, everything, movement of goods in and out. There are special, all agencies here have special teams that work, that take charge of that place. So if he's going to sell, and the man just calculated an investment of about $20 billion into that refinery, you are expecting him to put $20 billion on ground at least. Monies that are not basically his own 100%. He will have stakes there, but all that money cannot be from him. Maybe he has taken loans to do that, and you want him to come and give you fuel for free, or almost for free, to subsidize fuel rates for you. Is that the federal government? He's going to do his business. He's in that business to make profit. So whatever it is they are discussing, the players and actors, I know there's some form of insincerity among some of the groups that are in the sector. They don't want to see it come to bear. But bottom line is, even when Dangote starts its production full-fledged and it starts pumping fuel into this country, depending on whether or not they will buy from him, because the marketers, it's about free trade, is about what do you call it, foreign exchange rates and market forces. So if they reach an understanding and you can give them fuel at lesser rates, maybe if they are not greedy, if the Nigerians in the sector are not greedy themselves, we can get fuel at rates lesser than this. Right. But if they want to maximize their profits as usual, we will get fuel at. Recall that the man in charge, Boa, came out one time to say, oh, cement will be sold for 3,500. They actually supplied or had, because he came out and said the thing didn't work because the dealers foiled that attempt. They refused to make it go. Maybe he gave them and they sold at current rates.
All right. Thank you very much, Eje Monday Eje. He's a legal practitioner and a public affairs analyst. He's been joined us on the newspaper analysis. And right now, I want to go on a quick break. When we return, it will be time for the big discussion, when we'll be talking about the AGF's plan to abolish pardon for convicted looters. We'll return after the break.
I've seen watch your network, Global Television, and I think it's a refreshing addition to some of the networks that we already have, to have competitive media and looking at news from different angles. The place to go is to watch Global Television, because it gives you a different perspective, whether it is local news or foreign news, and even you're connecting with local communities in villages that I have seen. So we urge Nigerians that, this is the time to broaden the space, the source of information, of entertainment, and of enlightenment. And Global TV is the place to watch.
It is good to have you right there on Global Morning this beautiful Wednesday morning. It's been a very wonderful time. We've looked at the headlines for the day with our guest, and now we have another guest in the studio as we get into the discussion proper. Today we have a very topical issue to talk about, and joining us on the conversation today is Alexander Nduka Ogbo. He's an Esquire, barrister and solicitor, a notary public, chartered mediator and conciliator. He is a human rights activist. Good morning, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning.
Welcome. Good morning, sir. I'm glad to have you.
We are glad to have you in the studio today. We want to look at the statements coming from the AGF. As a matter of fact, a lot of people have come out to say so many things about that statement. The statement is that of the looters, because one of the things Nigerians always talk about is punishment for people who divert public funds. And some persons have had some form of pardon in the past, but the AGF is coming up with this statement that there is a plan to abolish pardon for people who are convicted, especially looters. And when you talk about looting, one of the things that have seriously affected the system is looting. Then you talk about immunity that covers these looters. Then one or two that may have been caught up with law, it will come to a particular point that they are being granted pardon by people in authority for certain reasons. But the AGF coming out to say this, is it a welcome development? What's your thought about this statement coming from the AGF?
First of all, let me start by saying that the current Attorney General, had not long ago done something remarkable concerning the issue of local government autonomy in this country by taking the 30 state governors, including the ACT, to the Supreme Court, and eventually got that judgment, and that has come to stay. Implementation is ongoing one bit after another. That's a good move he has made, highly commendable. Because while we criticize when leaders misbehave, when they get something right, it's good to applaud. That's one good point that the AGF has scored. Now, this particular one, if he pulls it through, that would be another landmark step he has taken. You see, a country like China is very fast-paced in development because there they don't tolerate this looting and corruption. When you are found wanting, when you are tried and convicted, there is capital punishment. Your head goes for it. And no matter how harsh the economy is, everybody values his or her life. Because of that, Chinese people, are up and doing things. So if convicted looters, because that's the word, convicted, showing that they have passed through the legal process of trial and became convicted, if convicted looters will now henceforth not be pardoned, that will send a good signal across the length and breadth of this country for people to sit up and do the right thing and stop this colossal waste of resources, pillaging of our common patrimony and wasting the lives of generations yet unborn. If the AGF can pull it through, that's going to be a highly commendable thing for him as a person. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. There is a place where Fagbemi made a statement saying law enforcement agents, all right, should do their investigations properly before summoning anyone.
Yes.
If we all know that in the past there have been this school of thought, some persons believe that these agencies sometimes are being used for witch hunting. Now he's coming out to say this. Can any difference actually come from this statement before you summon anyone, proper investigations? What does it take? When we talk about proper investigation, what does it mean as far as the law is concerned?
You know that Lateef Fagbemi SN is a very seasoned lawyer, very effective in litigation through the years, and has also handled cases from a lot number of politicians and has a lot to do with knowledge as per the functions and the behavior of our security agencies. There's something that goes on in our security agency system here which is not palatable. The police will pick somebody up, you will not inform the family members or any of the relations, which is kidnap in the real sense of it. And they will keep the person in detention. They will not make investigation. Keep the person as long as they want. And they will tell you that we will get you missing. They tell you that with boldness. A good number of them, which is most unhealthy. When eventually the matter comes to court, you discover that they will be asking for further days for the person to be detained, for them to conclude the investigation. It's a slap on the face of security operation. What is expected is when there's an issue about somebody, you do investigation. By the time you are done with investigation, you have got your facts. Then you pick the person up. You have got your facts. Because our constitution says when you get somebody arrested, quickly take this person to court. Don't detain the person more than 24 hours or at worst 48 hours. Take the person to court. You know, but they will want a situation they will give somebody for months at time, for years. That's exactly what it's addressing. There's need for our security agencies to be up and doing, upbeat in investigation. Investigation is key. If somebody is reported to you and you investigate and discovered nothing, there's no need harassing the person. You tell the one that reported that you have not found anything to substantiate what the issue is. But if you have got your facts, it is those facts that will lead you to court. And that's why our security agencies lose most of their cases in court. Because by the time they come to the court, what the court is looking for is facts. We find out that they don't even have the facts. That's why you see a lot of people in our correctional facilities awaiting trial. Over 90% of people detained in our correctional facilities, former prisons, are people awaiting trial. They don't even bring to court. When they bring them, some of them, there's nothing in the file to show. So that what is addressing is very germane, very fundamental, and it's important for our security agencies to sit up. There was a case I experienced some years ago. A young man had been held for 4 years. Yes, they hardly bring him to court. So how to move a motion for the matter to be struck out for want of diligent prosecution. Anytime they feel that there's an issue concerning this young man, they should get their facts ready and the court has to. And there are so many like that, languishing. There are people that their family members and community are looking for. Yet they are held by security agencies. It's most unfair.
All right, you said something. One of the things we do on Global Morning and Global Television is that we make sure the people are being educated, you know, because information is very vital. You said something while you were talking about this issue that sometimes these people have been picked up by the security agencies and detained beyond 24 hours, which is unlawful. In a situation like that, what do you think can be done? Do you need to charge the agency to court? Or what would the average Nigerians do? Because if you're talking about the law in Nigeria, most times you see the law more on the average Nigerians. In a situation like that, what do you think can be done when maybe your loved ones been detained before 24 hours? Because we've heard in recent times with this administration where some journalists were actually being detained, whisked away without their people even knowing their whereabouts, and beyond 24 hours. What do you think can be done in such situations? I'm actually asking you because you're a legal practitioner.
Yes. Now, you know, the Chapter 4 of the Nigerian Constitution, 1999, as amended, deals with issues of fundamental human rights. When someone is there like that, it's a breach of the person's fundamental rights as a human being, as a citizen of the country. So, there's a provision that such a person should proceed to the High Court to enforce his or her fundamental rights. Those who have ventured doing that have got damages awarded in their favor against whichever agency or individual that caused the breach. That's actually the open door that the Constitution has. The challenge there is many Nigerians don't have the resources to go to court. Because going to court, you know, our legal system still need a lot of improvements in terms of the time spent in adjudication. Our legal system runs slowly. Cases are not concluded on time. That's one of the snacks we have. In as much as we have administration of criminal justice act in place now, which has been trying to facilitate criminal prosecutions. We need more like that in civil matters to ensure that cases are easily concluded, like you see in advanced countries, where a case in court can be concluded in 7 days, some 14 days, which is very good a thing. And you see people sit up. So many people don't have the money to be able to see their case through in the courts. And that's why they stomach the pain and just leaving it like that, which is most unfair. So that's where the challenge is. Civil rights organizations try to pick up the case of cases of some people, but it's just a tip on the iceberg. There are many others that are just there, without help from anywhere. So people are expected to enforce their fundamental rights. And if you go to court and establish that, you get damages awarded in your favor. So that's actually the legal avenue that is open. But I've also talked of the challenges of lack of funds that people experience. That's why they will say that they leave it to God, meaning that they just resign to fate. Too bad.
All right, cool.
So I want us to look at alternative ways that we can ensure accountability, particularly in regards to these issues, alternative measures or interventions that we can put in place to deter looters, so that we don't have to come to this point where we're talking about abolishing pardon and all of that. What are those? And and we can also ensure accountability.
When you look at the constitution that made provision for the president, the vice president, the governors, deputy governors to have immunity, it's with good intention. That governance is a serious business, and there's a lot to do. That if cases are hanging against these people, it will be a kind of a distraction for them to function. Very good side. But in this part of the world, we have discovered that most politicians are, determined to abuse this immunity. Even to the point that when inquiry is made, they see it as an affront. Inquiry. When the Freedom of Information Act has come into place, and you use that avenue to ask for probity, and you see yourself being attacked, which is most unhealthy. So there's need to make effective use of that Freedom of Information Act to ask for people in government to give out information on basic things. Those are the ways that we can have checks and balances, while people are in power. Those are the ways we can use to do that. But in leadership in this country, political leadership in this country thrives on people being much interested in bootlicking, praise singers all over the place, sacrifice all over the place, and politicians like people like that. And when they see someone who comes out to insist on probity and on transparency, they see the person as a threat, which is an unhealthy thing we see. For instance, you see the demonstrations of bad governance that took place, and then now the trials going on, and you see this government charging those people for treasonable felony is a very great minus on this President Tinubu's government. Because if it is right that when people protest, you term them a felon, President Jonathan should have made sure that Tinubu is in prison for life. He was among the people who protested. He sponsored the protests. And so many like that, including Shoneko, Tule Bakare, all these people protested, occupy Nigeria for a very minor increment in pump price. But we didn't see Jonathan having that kind of mind, fascist mind, to descend on people that way. And the Jonathan kind of had to backtrack, and they were happy about it. So for such a person now to be in power, and people ask questions, and they were looking for who sponsored the protest. Hunger sponsored the protest, and the hunger is still there. Look at even the pump price has increased further, worsening the situation. It is government policy that is sponsoring the protests. They should stop looking for somebody somewhere, because Nigerians are fed up now, sincerely speaking. I'm also a pastor,
When people come to you in the church and make requests, you shed tears. These are real issues. Or you visit your members, you see how things have degenerated. So the government policies are sponsoring this protest. All right. Now, to clamp down on people that way is very wrong. This, dissent, opposition, or kind of clamp down on opposition for asking the right questions is an evil approach to leadership. So the government should be transparent. The government should be open. People should not be tired of asking the right questions. Because sincerely speaking, as I've always said in other fora, the only way a nation moves forward is when the grassroots discover the importance of people's power. Where from the grassroots people start demanding for what they need, then that is what makes politicians to wake up. So it is that demand from grassroots that will help to cure this massive abuse of public resources and this routine that is looking endless. So demand from the public, which is a function of awareness, and that's where the media have been very good in trying to sensitize people, which I commend the media for. So it's actually asking these questions consistently, making the demands that will help to solve the problem.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Let's still get back to what we're talking about, where the AGF, Attorney General of the Federation, is planning to abolish pardon for convicted looters. We've had looters in the past who were actually given pardon. I think somebody like Jolie Nyame,
yes,
somebody like Bode George, and a host of others that we may not be able to mention now. Looking at this, there is this immunity clause, all right, that some persons have, and that to an extent is part of the things that makes corruption to keep growing on a daily basis. Then this pardon is not just being done by an ordinary citizen, but done by people in power, maybe presidential pardon, as they may call it, maybe the governor of a state saying, okay, this person should be released from the prison, should be pardoned for certain reasons. With this coming from the AGF, don't you think it is going to be a clash of interest, all right, between the Attorney General of the Federation and the people in power? Because as it is, the office of the AGF, the connection it has with the office, with the presidency, the federal government, as the case may be. So what do you think? Don't you think there's going to be a clash in this decision if it actually come to stay?
Now, first of all, the provision for amnesty in the Constitution is a global practice, a global best practice. That's why you see some persons who have been in detention for a long time. At certain times, maybe as Independence Day is approaching 1st October, you see that some governors will move around and get some people, released from detention in correctional facilities. The president has the power, that prerogative, to grant amnesty to certain persons that merit it under certain circumstances. The governors as well have that. Even the chief judges in our different states have that. So that aspect is the good side of it that should not be tampered with. But I think that what the Attorney General is looking for is the rampant cases of looting by politicians, believing that their party and their cronies will walk away for them to be free once they come under the survey, of the legal system. I think that's what he's looking at. I don't think there's no way the Attorney General will be thinking of going to the Constitution to talk about abolishing the prerogative power of amnesty of the president or governors. That one cannot be done because it favors people across board. A lot of people that are relieved from these facilities are most of the time even people from the low class. They are released in good numbers, you know. So I don't think that's the aspect he's going to. What he's looking at is political corruption. How to reduce political corruption to the barest minimum, because the kind of looting you see some politicians embark on is mind-boggling. It's mind-blowing. It's so horrible. It's so unimaginable. Okay, look at the kind of situation we found ourselves where the government is talking of palliative, and then the government releases resources, grains and all the rest to states to attend to their people, and some people corner it in warehouses and use it for political campaigns as their own way of helping the people, whereas it's what belongs rightfully to the people. That kind of thing is so pervasive, and then the way they loot our money and all the rest. Okay, the issue of minimum wage of 70,000 is in the front burner now, and a lot of governors are saying they cannot afford to do that. But you see these people doing things that involve billions for their own selfish interests. For goodness sake, let's prioritize the life of the ordinary citizen. Why are we saying that the wage bill is too high for a state, whereas you have what can take care of millions, hundreds of millions of people being filtered away by just few individuals? It's most unfair. Let's start thinking of the welfare of the common good of the greater number of people. That is what makes life what it's supposed to be. Look, nobody will ever sanction the activities of these kidnappers. It's a very bad thing. But the behavior, mindless behavior, and mindless looting of public resources by politicians kick-started this kidnap. And now it has degenerated to the point that the kidnappers do not even target just the politicians alone. They just target anybody, anywhere. That's how these things spiral. But if we do things that touch the lives of people positively, there will be nothing provoking this kind of massive upsurge in crime in society. So I think that's what the Tanzania is looking at. Political corruption. How to curb it and reduce it to the barest minimum. That's the angle he's looking at. Like you asked whether there will be clash. At his position, he is expected to give proper counsel to the president. So I believe that he knows how he can chip in the issue to actually get out of it instead of having it as a clash. It's a good thing to happen. It's a good thing to happen if we can pull through.
Knowing that the AGF is talking about political looters,
yes,
how well do you see this follow through and how it's going to affect the criminal justice system of Nigeria? Do you think that this is going to be duly followed through if it is passed into law, that looting should be abolished, and then how does that even affect criminal justice?
It will expose our political leaders whether their sincerity or purpose. Because we have seen situations in this country where our leaders, something happened when Adams Oshiomhole was the chairman of APC. And he made a comment, not once, in the public arena, that if you join APC, your sins will be forgiven. And they were doing things like that. Once you discover that things you have done are working against you, the next thing is you have to decamp and join to the APC and become a free man. Too bad. So if our political leaders want to use that to oppress the opposition, that is a big pity.
But if it applies across board, regardless of your political affiliation, it brings sanity to the society. Yes, implementation really is key. And seeing how that implementation is done without ill will, without favor, without let on waver, not minding whose ox is God. If that standard is used, it will be for the good of society. But if they want to use it to cage in people and force opposition to come under their influence, that will be a total disgrace and a total failure. And it will, of course, work against them.
All right, the discussion is still on. This is Global Morning on Global Television, where we're talking about the statement coming from the Attorney General of the Federation on how the pardon for looters will be stopped. Let's go on a quick break. After this break, we'll return to continue with the discussion.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle with ASU
The
strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
It is still the morning, Global Morning, and of course we're talking about a very topical issue here, where we have in the studio a legal practitioner, a chartered mediator, and a public affairs analyst. He's been doing justice to the topic of the day, where the Attorney General of the Federation plans to abolish pardon for convicted looters, like it has happened in the past, and we've been able to establish some of the pending questions in the heart of Nigerians. And one more thing that I want to ask in respect to what you were talking about. As it is, the Attorney General of the Federation have a lot to do, because one of the things that senior lawyers cried out for was the sanitization of the judicial system. Senior lawyers have cried, out at a particular time. Okay, then now let's look at the judicial system, as the case may be, because some Nigerians right now, if you ask them, they will tell you categorically, looking at what is happening in the country, they will tell you the judiciary is no longer the hope of the common man. Okay, and some persons will tell you the law, the constitution, is only for the poor. This pardon that we're talking about is more with the political office holders. As it is right now, we're talking about the agencies not given adequate information before arrest or investigation, as the case may be, before they go out carrying out their arrest. Let's look at the judicial system itself as it is. Don't you think there is a lot of compromise in the judicial system that may make these people, whether or not this pardon has been taken away, if the judicial system is not thorough enough, these people might still want to jump over this case, whether or not there is a pardon. Because one thing, it is when you are convicted that you'll start talking about pardon. But a lot of people do these things. They go to court and they come out. Recently, there was this slogan, if you're not satisfied, go to court.
You see, the judicial system needs to sit up on a very serious note. And it has to do with the character of the actors in the judiciary. We know that in the recent past, when people like Kayode Esho were at the Supreme Court, Oputa and all the rest, it was the personality of these persons that gave credibility to the judiciary in Nigeria. Knowing that if you get to court, you meet people who have a mind of their own to do right, sitting on the bench. And that did a lot of good to this country. And we discovered, you see, when PDP was in power, APC was such a strong opposition, did everything both internationally to weigh PDP down, and garnered the support from the masses, believing that when they come in, we gave the best. But APC came to power in 2015 and compromised the judiciary so badly, in a way that it has been so unimaginable that something like that could happen in this country. What the kind of corruption that came into the judiciary under APC was not contemplated when PDP was in power. It was not contemplated because under PDP there was fear of the judiciary. Yes, it was under such that people like P2B could come to power. With what happened to him, all right? People like Amechi in Rivers State could come to power. With what happened to him? You get to the court and the law is handled as the law is and should be and ought to be. APC came to power and compromised the judiciary, bought over the judiciary, and then started making that comment. Just do anything, seize the position, then ask you to go to court because they believe that they will work their way through. Is a great minus to APC government, a great minus. And this country, it will take us long to recover from that damage inflicted on the judiciary by the APC administration. So it's something that they should know is hanging on them. Is a slaw they created that is hanging on APC as a party. Then the flip side of it, our judicial officers need to wake up to their responsibility, because we know that times where that you get to the judicial officers and they will disregard the approach you are making with money. That was unlike now that you see all kinds of manipulation going on and you see conflicting orders being given left, right and center, all because of people succumbing to compromise. So the judicial should actually get up and do their job right. They should get up and do their job right. But like I said, APC as a party had done so much damage. And yet that is not an excuse to our judicial officers.
Okay, talking about... Okay.
Let me just chip in. We know that we've had, there have been arguments about the judiciary being not being outside the influence of
the politicians.
Politicians or political parties. But by what basis do you say that our judiciary has been bought by the APC?
Now, look at what happens. For instance, the presidential election that took place in this country. Though somebody has said, if you go down memory lane in this country, you know, the Supreme Court is not only a court of justice, it's a court of public policy. There are decisions the Supreme Court make that are not purely legal, but the issue of policy that will affect the development of the society. The judiciary looks at certain things that if this one is done this way, the effect could be catastrophic. For instance, you know, when Yar'Adua was ill and there was vacuum, you know, the issue of this time we came out with a doctrine of convenience came in. It was the issue of public policy. So someone has said that, well, in this country it's like there is a kind of decision that is not made public, but presidential elections can hardly be overturned in this country. So, but we have seen at the state level where in the past basic things were done by the judiciary to correct some manifest errors. So we expect the judiciaries to stand up to the occasion and right the wrongs that politicians are manipulating. Someone said that all the politicians are mad horses. They will do everything, just like football. If you look at football, whenever a team is winning, they start deploying delay tactics. Anyhow they can do it. It's time for them to throw the ball. They want to hold it. The goalkeeper catches the ball. He holds it. Doesn't want to bring it out so that more time will go. But the referee, if he's upbeat, can curtail that. So the judiciary should come out point blank to make everybody know that it's not a place for people to hide. It's not a place for people to hide. But to try to do things leaning on technicalities to serve politicians is what have been causing a problem. If Nigeria follows the law, really, the issue of the delays will go, and the issue of compromise will go. Not going, you see a manifest error, but you allow politicians to hide on some technicalities to knock it off. These are the gray areas that the judiciary need to, you know, emphasize and stamp their feet. These are things that bring a correction to the society, you know.
All right. While you were talking, you talked about the compromise of the judiciary at some levels.
Yes.
Okay, at some instances. Now, what is the NBA doing about it? Have there been people in the past who were caught in the act and the law took its course? Has anyone ever been sanctioned? Is NBA just sitting and watching? Or can we say the NBA itself has been compromised, because that is the highest body, okay, the Nigerian Bar Association?
Now, just that many people do not know how the NBA works. There's the Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee, where if a lawyer misbehaves, the person is reported, and the person is being tried by that committee. The committee takes the person to court where the need arises, and many lawyers have been debarred. When they are found wanting, your practicing license will be withdrawn, some for life, some for a term of either 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. You know, the one that affects the judges doesn't go to the NBA. It goes through the NJC.
Okay.
The NJC, yes, the one that affects the judges. It goes through the NJC, and we have seen cases also where some judges were sanctioned. So there have been cases, established cases of judges being sanctioned, being warned. That is ongoing, and that's a way of sanitizing the society. So when it comes to what is expected of the NBA is to hype, to shout out on irregularities or misbehaviors, you know, and to alert the judiciary
of the wrong attitudes of some of the officers on the bench. That's what is expected of the NBA. NBA have been trying in that area in some cases, and I know the current NBA president is a very proactive young man, and I expect a lot of issues like this to be handled by him. So these are the aspects that people need to understand what the NBA can do. NBA is mainly issue of affecting practicing lawyers. The case of judges goes to the NJC.
Oh, okay. Is there anything, because you talked about the congestion in our prisons, because cases, you can see someone have a case and the case is not being given attention for a very long period of time, and people tend to spend more time in custody than the usual. We heard of the people who were actually sent to prison after the NSAS protest. Originally, they were supposed to be there for 3 months, but they spent 4 years and were just released. And there are people like that, you made mention of it, that there are some persons who have not been heard for a very long time, probably because they don't have anyone to stand for them. Is there anything the judicial system is doing to make sure these cases don't pile up the way it is right now, that someone will spend so many years in custody just because the person is not being tried?
You know, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act that came into effect 2015 made provision for chief magistrates to visit the correctional centers within their jurisdiction from time to time, monthly, in fact, to give monthly report of how detainees are handled, and in appropriate cases to get some detainees released. There's a provision for chief magistrate to visit police stations from time to time and find out how people that are held in custody, how their matters are handled and all that, to make sure that this decongestion stops. So we have these things in place, and in appropriate cases some judicial officers have been effective in doing that. All we are crying for is for more of such actions to be done, because this issue of held in detention without trial is obnoxious, is most evil. If it affects your family member or your community member, you now know how bad it is. So there's the provision in the judicial system to get. That's why I said that the issue of amnesty cannot be abolished, because amnesty has a lot of positive purposes. That's why you see cases where maybe when the new legal year is about to commence, this is September now, which is usually the month that the new legal year comes into effect. You see that chief judges go to correctional facilities and get some people released. Is aimed at decongestion. So there are that provision that the legal system has that are going to be used, but we need more of that. And what these judges do, they go to the correctional facilities, hear from the officers, check through the list of the people in detention, and when they discover cases that are frivolous, they ask the officer to compile this and they set those people free.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And there are some that were convicted and given option of fine. They don't have money to pay. There have been cases where some judges pay for them, or ask some people to come to their rescue to get them released. We need so much more of this to be done. So there are provisions in the legal system and the judicial system for these things, and we need much more of that implementation. What benefits that come to the grassroots in large number is far better for the society than case of a few politicians that compromise our future. They are being set free because of political patronage.
All right, thank you very much, Alexander Nduka Ogbo, Esquire, a legal practitioner, a he is a notary public and, of course, a chartered mediator, and at the same time, a human rights activist. It's good to have you on Global Morning today.
It's a pleasure.
That has been a very wonderful discussion. This is going to be the size of Global Morning for today. Global Morning will come on your way again, same time tomorrow, 7 a.m. And so many other programs will still be coming on your way after Global Morning. TalkSport will be coming. I know a lot of you are wondering, what did the Super Eagle did yesterday? Don't worry, more will be coming on your way after Global Morning.
All right, that's where we draw the curtains on Global Morning. Don't forget to follow us across all our social media handles at Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. I am Queen Agaba and my colleague Ramsey Noah.
Well, you can
Ramsey Enoch and not Ramsey Noah. I will be bringing you Global Morning tomorrow, same time, same station. Bye for now.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
What you call a police station?